Hi, this is Gayle from BERNINA of Naperville. And look, there is construction all around me. And that's why maybe Serger Club is a day late instead of premiering Monday night at 6, like I said. So bear with me. But we have got a really fun Serger Club that is based, well, it's Boro inspired. And if you don't know what that is, well, let's have a look. Okay, so here we are for our BERNINA Serger Club and our Boro-inspired pillow. Yeah, what is that? Well, Boro is a technique, and I have a link here to a project from the Victoria and Albert Museum, and this is also where I got my information to tell you. This was derived from the Japanese boro, meaning something tattered or repaired. Boro refers to the practice of reworking and repairing textiles, often clothes or bedding, through piecing, patching, and stitching in order to extend their use. But it's also associated with the indigo-dyed hemp clothing traditional in Japan before introduction of cotton. So worn areas of the cloth were patched over, or older garments were cut up and joined with running stitches, or areas of sashiko, running stitches sewn through layers of fabric used for reinforcement and to quilt layers of cloth together. So this historical spirit informs the contemporary trend for distressed or repaired looking clothes. There was a book also a while back called Visible Mending, and it has this very same look. Now, one thing that you can see looking at this bag, and by the way, the bag is the project that you can click on directly here. It's not a regular pattern. It's kind of willy-nilly. And that's what I want you to think of this, because the idea should be the fun of playing with the different fabrics, making your own embellished piece of cloth that can be used as a pillow or this bag, or honestly, a giant blanket if you like. It's just a different way to think about using our serger for sure. Okay, now that we know what that is, let's have a look at kind of where my brain is going with this month's project. So let's just start with some supplies. The fabric that I used I upcycled some homespun 2.5-inch strips that I've had for a while. They were cut for a different project that just never came to fruition. And I have 20-inch square of base fabric to match my strips or to contrast or coordinate with them. You're going to need, ultimately, if you want to do a lot of stitching on a 20-inch square piece, you're going to need 2 spools of ecru spaghetti in 12 weight. And that is from Wonderful, and it's just so awesome because this thread is a little bit thicker and it presents nicely through the needle of our serger. You're also going to want 3 spools of white Sericore thread. You need only 1 to do the actual project that we're doing, but you'll need 3 spools if you want to serge this into a pillow or something like that. You're going to need fabric marking pen, scissors, and I mentioned that we're putting that 12-weight thread through the needle. Well, you're going to need a 90 Topstitch needle for your serger. And I know we normally use the ELX needles for this, but the 90 Topstitch needle is perfect because it will accommodate the thickness of this white, thick 12-weight thread that we're using. And then, of course, we have our C19 blind hem foot. That's if you're using the L890 like me. If you have an 860 or an 850, you're going to need the L19 blind hem foot. Now, there's also a blind hem serger foot for the Burnett sergers, but there's 2 different sizes. So I would get the narrowest one for this, and I have links for you in the coupon that's attached to this handout. That's right. So this presentation deck that you see me using right here, you're going to get this with the special coupon and the special links and all of those good things if you decide to actually purchase our Serger Club for November. So don't forget to check out that link in the description of this YouTube video that you're watching. And yes, I know sometimes we lose track of all the YouTube videos that we watch. Well, I'm also including a link to the YouTube video here in the presentation deck as well. So if you purchase this, you're going to know exactly where to find it. So here is what we made during our in-person session at the store. And this was just strips that I kind of sewed down, then added another strip, then added a weird shape and whatever, all done with our Bernina 2-thread wide Flatlock Stitch. Here's a block that we pieced in another club, and then I just put this down on my background fabric and wanted to make it look like that Sashiko stitch that was holding two pieces down like visible mending, right? I thought I would first take some of my bits together and make a little swatch. Then I wanted to try to do my own Sashiko style stitching to hold the pieces together, just to kind of see like what, am I doing here, and would this be possible? So what I came up with was not necessarily to try to make this look Sashiko. It was just to make it look textury. And I thought, a Flatlock ladder might give us a really good look here. So I know that flat locking is pretty easy. We only need 2 threads, and my serger can stitch this way faster than I can do this by hand. So let's go see how we're going to set up our serger to do this exercise. All right, so let's start with the stitch. So we're going to set up our machine for a 2-thread wide Flatlock stitch. That's number 11 on the Bernina L8 series machines. Serger thread is threaded through my lower looper or the red path. And then through the needle, I have 12 weight Wonderfill spaghetti. Now that's also where I'm inserting the size 90 top stitch needle. I did, after doing this a few times, I had to adjust my tension settings just a little bit, because with that red path, because I'm taking such a skinny little bite out of some of these areas, I have to really crank up the tension on that one. Otherwise, it looks really, really loopy underneath. So I increased the tension on that to 5.6, but don't be alarmed if you have to go higher than 6. Nothing's going to explode on your machine. The left needle, I just decreased slightly to 1.4 from 1.5. And I also elongated my stitch length to 4.5 millimeters. And I have to tell you, I did my presser foot pressure at 1 and slightly encouraged the fabric through the machine by pulling it just a little bit. That's just how I got the best results. So you're also going to have to adjust the foot, because adjusting the blind hem foot less than 1/8 of an inch away from the needle is going to give you the least amount of puckering when you unfold it. So what this is doing is, as we're stitching it folded, we're taking a bite out of the edge of that fabric. If our bite is too much of a bite, when we open our fabric up, it's going to look like it's pleating in there or puckering up. So it's the right measurement of moving that little adjustable blade on your blind hem foot to make sure that when you open it up, there's no puckering. You see the little ladder stitch, but there's no squeezing or anything like that. So that can take a little bit of playing around. Also, as you stitch the background fabric and all of these layers of scraps that you've put in here, you might need to adjust it to a larger adjustment this time, because there's just simply more fabric in there. So you just have to play with this a little bit. If you get a little bit of puckers or whatever, you can press it. And if you like the puckering, it just adds texture. I don't want to put any pressure on this. This is just a fun experiment to see if you like this technique. So with all of this said, the first thing that you should think about doing is a test. So I used the swatch where I showed you how I did a lame attempt at Sashiko, right? So take all of the things that I've told you and now do some practice swatches to see if you like the settings that I have set up on my serger and they work for you, or if you need to tweak them just a little bit. Once your test is complete and you're happy with it, take your 20-inch square right side up and distribute your scrappy pieces. I use those 2.5-inch strips laying around of the homespuns that I had. And then you're going to adhere them down to hold them in place with the 505 glue stick. And you can sew through the glue stick. It's not going to gum up your needle. It's not going to do any harm or anything like that. But this way you can kind of keep those pieces in place. And then you're going to turn your work over and you're going to draw vertical lines or horizontal lines or both, whatever you want. I actually did vertical lines, but in hindsight, I think I wanted to do horizontal ones. But then you're going to position the lines. You're going to draw them 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch apart. This is going to be the line that you're going to fold them on, and then you're going to hold that folded piece up to the guide on your blind hem foot to make your flatlock stitch. And then it's just very repetitive process. And the one thing I want to make sure I don't think I've told you yet is I do this process with my cutting blade down, but that's just to prevent any cutting or whatever. I did my vertical strips 3/4 of an inch apart, and across that 20 inch square, I used up every single bit of my 12 weight spaghetti thread. So that's why I'm recommending that you get 2 spools, because you may want to stitch more lines, go both directions, etc. And now every once in a while, you kind of land on a piece where you didn't grab the edge and it's kind of flopping over and whatever. So if that's the case, I just take it to the iron, press it, and then trim very carefully, not to cut the thread, but just with some applique scissors or whatever, I trim that little excessive, annoying little piece of fabric that I couldn't quite get hooked into my seam allowance and is too big to just leave floppy. But this is a messy kind of look that's very raw and very primitive. And so I don't want you to get hung up on too many of these details, because at the end of the day, we're kind of looking for that rough look. Now, I turned my work into a pillow, and I ended up trimming my piece down to 18 inches exactly. And then this works for a 12-inch pillow form. So then I cut 2 pieces, 18 inches by 22 inches for an envelope style back, and I folded those in half to measure 11 inches by 18 inches. Then I placed my embellished piece right side up, added my little envelope pieces, aligning the raw edge at the top with the crease going to the center, and then another piece with the raw edges to the bottom and the creases going to the center. And I threaded up for a 3-thread overlock stitch, serged around it, turned it inside out, and made the little pillow that you see there on the right. But you, going back to the beginning, might decide to make a bag similar to the one in the Victoria and Albert Museum. So hopefully I've given you some choices. All right, so what do you think? Is this something that you're going to give a try? And I bet you will make a pillow faster than I'm going to get my dream box together. I am so excited. It's going to organize my life. It's going to be the backdrop for many videos, and it's really going to help me be more efficient with my sewing, I think. And then, of course, right here, that's where my 990 is going to go. And but the first thing I set up in my sewing room, who would have known? It was my L890 serger. Well, anyway, don't forget to watch some more tutorials if that is your vibe. Maybe get some humor along the way, and you might learn a thing or two as well. So thank you so much for watching. Sign up for Serger Club at BERNINAofNaperville.com. It's only $15. You get a handout with the pattern and all kinds of stuff. I give you additional videos. I give you all kinds of additional things to watch. And I give you a special coupon for 25% off our Bernina C19 blind stitch foot. All right, so hop right over to our YouTube channel. It's easy. It's youtube.com/Bernina of Naperville. And there, please like, comment, and subscribe. Happy serging.